So the big news is out. Italy's digital nomad visa is finally a real thing. But hold on. Before you start packing your bags and dreaming of that perfect espresso, there's a pretty big catch. We're going to cut right through all the hype and get down to the nitty-gritty. Who can actually get this visa? Let's see if you can make the cut.
I mean, come on. Who isn't dreaming of that? Swapping out your boring office view for a villa in Tuscany? It's the ultimate fantasy for a ton of people. And for the very first time, there's an actual visa made just for remote workers to do exactly that. But you've got to ask, is it really as easy as it sounds?
Okay, maybe pump the brakes on booking that flight just yet. This visa, it's not exactly an open-door policy. It's more like a series of gates, and they're pretty tightly guarded. You can think of it like a series of challenges you have to pass to prove you're the kind of person they're looking for. So let's go through them, one by one, and see if you've got the keys.
In this slide, it pretty much sums up the whole situation perfectly. You've got the Roman holiday dream on one side, and then the harsh reality of Italian law on the other. Seriously, the entire process feels like this constant battle between the fantasy and the paperwork.
All right, let's dive into the first and honestly probably the biggest gate you've got to get through, the highly skilled requirement. And I'm telling you, this is where a lot of people are going to get stuck, because highly skilled isn't just some vague term they throw around. Oh no, it's a very, very strict legal definition.
So when you dig into the details, the law points to a specific article, Article 27 Quater, which sets a really high bar. And what's super important to understand is that this isn't some new standard they made up. It's basically the same tough standard they use for the EU Blue Card. That right there is our biggest clue. Italy isn't just looking for any freelancer or remote employee. They're targeting a very specific, high-level kind of professional.
So, how do you actually prove you're highly skilled in their eyes? Well, you've got 4 ways to do it. The most direct path is having a university degree that took at least 3 years to complete, or something similar, like a post-secondary professional qualification, also 3 years. Don't have a degree? Okay, you might still be in the game if you have 5 years of really solid, high-level professional experience. And for all you tech folks out there, there's a special little rule. If you're an ICT manager or specialist, you just need 3 years of experience from the last 7. So take a look at this list. Do you fit into one of these boxes?
But wait a second. It's not quite that simple. There's another layer. On top of all that, you absolutely must prove you've been working in your field for at least the last 6 months. This isn't optional. It's their way of making sure you're an established professional and not just testing the waters in a new career.
Okay, so let's say you've made it past the highly skilled gate. Awesome. But now we're moving on to the next big challenge, the money rules. And as you can probably guess, they're pretty strict about what you need to have in the bank.
Here it is, the number you need to burn into your brain. 28,000 euros. That's the minimum annual income you need to prove. Now, if you look at the absolute letter of the law, the minimum is technically a little less than that. But trust me, everyone on the ground, all the lawyers and consulates, they're all saying 28,000 euros is the practical minimum. That's the number that shows them you can stand on your own 2 feet.
And this next part is absolutely crucial. Where that money comes from matters a lot. That 28,000 euros has to be active income from the remote work you'll be doing. So we're talking about your salary from your employer or your invoiced income from freelance clients. You know what doesn't count? Any of your passive income. Rental properties, stock dividends, pension payments. Nope, none of it. It has to be from your work.
And you better believe they're going to want to see proof. You can't just say you make that much. You need to get your documents in order. We're talking recent tax returns, official pay slips, bank statements that clearly show those regular salary deposits. And if you're a freelancer, get ready to show those signed contracts. They want to see a rock-solid paper trail.
So, you've got the skills, you've got the money. You're feeling pretty good, right? Well, now we get to what might honestly be the hardest part of this whole thing, the paperwork. Let's just say Italian bureaucracy has a reputation for a reason.
This quote I saw on Reddit just nails it perfectly. I hadn't got my code fiscale yet, so chicken/egg. It sums up the classic bureaucratic nightmare you can find yourself in. You'll need one document to get a second one, but then you find out you need that second document to get the first one. It's enough to make you pull your hair out.
And here is the absolute best example of this chicken and egg problem. So check this out. Before you even apply for the visa, you have to prove you have a place to live in Italy. Okay, so that means you have to find a property, and you need to sign a 12-month registered lease. But to register the lease, you need an Italian tax code, a codice fiscale. And you have to do all of this
before you even submit your visa application. Just let that sink in. You have to lock yourself into a year-long lease without even knowing if they're going to approve your visa. Wow.
And it doesn't stop there. On top of that lease, you also need solid health insurance that covers at least 30,000 euros for your whole stay. You need a clean criminal record, that's pretty standard. But this last one, this is a big one, especially if you work for a company. Your employer has to sign a notarized declaration saying they haven't been convicted of any immigration or labor law violations in the past 5 years. Now that is a pretty serious legal document, and you might find that not every HR department is going to be thrilled about doing that for you.
Okay, let's fast forward. You've somehow managed to conquer every gate. You've assembled a literal mountain of paperwork. You're finally ready to apply. So, what actually happens next? Let's talk about the application itself, and then, the really crucial part, what you have to do the minute you land in Italy.
So the whole thing is really a two-part process. Phase 1 happens in your home country. You apply in person at the Italian consulate, and then you wait. And it can be a long wait, up to 120 days. Then, once you get that beautiful one-year visa in your passport, you fly to Italy. But the second you land, a brand new, very loud clock starts ticking. You have exactly 8 days. That's it, just 8 days, to get yourself to the local police station, the Questura, and apply for your residence permit, your permesso di soggiorno. And let me be clear, this is a non-negotiable deadline. Miss it and all that hard work could be for nothing.
And now, we need to talk about taxes. This is a big one. As soon as you've been in Italy for more than half the year, that's 183 days, boom, you are officially an Italian tax resident. And what does that mean? It means you have to pay Italian taxes on your worldwide income, everything. And just to clear something up, you might have heard about some special tax incentives for people moving to Italy. Well, for the most part, those do not apply to digital nomads on this visa, so plan accordingly. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. There is some really good news here. This visa isn't just a short-term thing. It's renewable. And more than that, it's a real, legitimate pathway to staying in Italy long-term. After 5 years of living there continuously, you're eligible to apply for permanent residency. And after 10 years, you can actually apply to become an Italian citizen. So this can be the start of a whole new life. So there you have it. We've gone through all the major hurdles, proving your skills, showing you have the money, surviving the paperwork, and hitting those crazy deadlines. The Italian dream is absolutely alive and well, but as we've seen, the journey to get there is incredibly challenging. So I guess the only real question left is the one for you. Is living La Dolce Vita worth battling the bureaucracy? That's something only you can decide.